Hello, greetings YouTube.
What's up, YouTube?
Greetings Internet.
Oh, what's up, YouTube?
Oh, hi! I didn't see you there, YouTube.
What's up, my G's?
Hello.
What's
We're
up,
about
peeps?
to record a podcast. This is the part of the podcast you don't hear on the actual podcast because we cut it out because it's unprofessional.
Mm-hmm.
He cuts
Useless. Useless.
So we're about to get started. Preview the Gold Cup.
Let's do it.
Ready?
Yeah. Any last words?
I feel amazing about this. I love life.
Onomatopoeia, onomatopoeia, onomatopoeia.
Unique New York.
Unique
Unique
leather,
New
yellow
York.
leather, red leather, yellow leather. Okay. Starting at 11:35 a.m. in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, hello, folks, and welcome to We the Peeps. This is, of course, what is it? What is this? It's the American Soccer Podcast, in which you are going to get to know everything that you need to know about the Usmnt. I'm Clayton. I'm a rapper, artist.
I'm Ty. I'm an entrepreneur.
And we let a Nats.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Even when they do weird things
Absolutely.
that are irritating.
We love the backup Nats.
And it always seems to be the backups, doesn't it?
We love the backup
It's weird,
Nats.
yeah. Is there an A team anymore? Who knows?
Insert here. And insert. Folks, welcome to a Rastapod. It's a Rastapod time. If you've been with us for a while, you already know and love Rastapod time. We had a 60-man roster.
It's the most
Rastapod time of the year. What was my one of those that I did recently? I switched something out. That was a perfect word. Another time, we'll come back to it.
We'll come back.
So we switched out. We're going to Swami Jurgen that. So we've switched out the 60-man roster for a 20-something man roster, 20-something per human being roster that we're going to dive into. And this roster is, of course, for the Gold Cup, which is fast approaching. In fact, underway. Officially underway for some, though not for us.
The play-in games are
the play-in games are underway. We want to get you guys ready for that, and we want to get ourselves ready for that. But first, a little bit of housekeeping must occur. So first off and foremost, please know how grateful we are that you are listening to this show, that you are with us on YouTube at WTP Pod, that you are with us on Twitter at WTP Pod. And of course, the number one thing that you can do for the show is to just talk about it. Talk about us. Let people know that we exist.
Tell a homie.
Tell a homie. Tell a friend. Consider
barbecue.
Yeah, post. Ty's got some really useful videos for new soccer fans on the YouTube. So if you post those to your Facebook or whatever and give people a chance to get into this team, that helps us out a lot. And let's face it, that helps them out a lot. They need you to tell them about the crap Nats. Am I right?
Yeah. You cannot have a complete and full life without deep knowledge of the bad U.S. national team.
At some point, you have to go backpacking alone. You need to have kids, and you need to like soccer.
Yes.
Otherwise, you haven't fully lived life.
Exactly.
I
think Montaigne said that.
Mondrian, was it? So here we are. Last thing is, please hit us up with a review. 5 stars is incredibly helpful on YouTube. On YouTube, actually, can you do that?
No, you can't. But you can hit Spotify. Like maybe you can log on 5 times and hit like.
Do those. Yeah. Do all the things.
Give us as much as you can.
Give us as much as you can. Hit us with the subscribe. And lastly, become a subscriber on our Patreon, patreon.com/WTP pod. $5 Jurgen bucks makes you a ratified peep, and it helps us to stem the bleeding, the financial bleeding.
Yeah.
That this show is a black hole of our energies and endeavors.
The Jurgen buck is weak. Buy the dip and get in on the Patreon.
Get in right now because it's worth it. Ender of houser keeping. So we got 3 games. We got a tournament. We got a Rasta. There's only one way to start this off, and that's to line them up. Line them on up, boys. Get out there. All right.
Go
I'm
on,
looking at
Christian
60 of you.
Tyler Adams. Get out there, guys.
Yeah, the next generation.
Wait a second. Wait. I don't see. We're looking at the roster. I don't see McKenny, or is that a typo there?
All right.
What's going on here?
It's not a typo, and no, this is not from 2016.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
the Dave Saracan.
This is not the 2018 Gold Cup. This is the real current Gold Cup roster, and I'm going to start out with the goalkeepers. We've got welcome back the polar bear, Brad Guzan.
Straight from Antarctica. He's been playing for AFC down there.
Straight. What's his dark materials compass situation? There's something there.
He's been around.
He's been around. Sean Johnson next up, and of course, the greatest baseball player of all time, Matt Turner, hailing from the New England Revolution. We love it. We love it. Matt Turner. Let's do this thing. Defenders. We know of him. We know of consider him. Loving him. Yep.
We are considerate. Yeah, we're thinking about it.
Yep. No, a lot of Matt Turner stands out there, and if you're listening to us, we want you to know that you're welcome here as well. Although we have not been on the Matt Turner train, people love this guy, and he's got a cool story. So, okay, moving on. Defenders. This is a fun one.
It's
George Bello. It's your boy George Bello, who just barely has been around.
Yeah,
let's go, George Bello. This is the roster of forgotten fishes.
The oldest 17-year-old in the world.
It's the roster of forgotten fishes. We got George Bello, Reggie, the soccer player formerly known as Reggie Cannon, Shaq Moore. Yes. All right, let's go. Donovan Pines. I got nothing. I have zero. Nothing on Donovan Pines. Miles Robinson, James Sands. I've actually heard some fun things about James Sands. Sam Vines, Walker Zimmerman. That's our defenders. In the midfield, let's go Kellen Acosta, Gianluca Busio.
Former Pookie baby, current Pookie baby.
The day has finally come for Luca Busio to enter the fold. Oh, the tears. My heart is warmed. And I believe in humanity again. Let's fucking go. LFG, Gianluca Busio. Okay. Next up, Sebastian Lletget. Too legit to quit. I just can't quit you, Sebastian Lletget.
By the way, Sebastian Lletget is in the roster. He has 24 caps, 7 goals. So it just says Sebastian Lletget 24/7. Very accurate. Very accurate. This guy goes hard.
Yes. This must be frozen in time.
It says LA Galaxy 24/7.
24/7, dog.
Perfect description of the Sebastian Lletget lifestyle.
Let's go. I'm doing it in the club fist pump right now for those of you on YouTube.
He's in Manhattan Beach. He's making it happen.
All day long, baby. That's all that's in my blood. That's all that's in my blood. 24/7 with it. That's all that's in my blood. All right, next up, we've got Christian, the one half of the Roldan sensation.
Got former caps to score 7 goals. He can match Sebastian.
Yeah, Christian could be 24/7 too, and once was. Christian Roldan is back with us. We've got Eric Williamson. Looking forward to it. Welcome on in, Eric with a Y. Why not? And Jackson Yule. Yeesh.
Of course. The second stage evolution of Will Trapp. The next.
Oh man, yeah, just the next Will Trapp. So sad. Okay, forwards. Paulie Ariola Nips. You gotta love this guy. You gotta love Paulie Nips.
Gotta love him.
You gotta love Paulie Nips. Daryl DK, Daryl Beck. Why not? Come on in. Gioacchini, Nicholas Gioacchini. Giacchini. Is it? Are we gonna go Gioacchini or Giacchini?
Gioacchini.
Stan, greatest ever, best Bundesliga striker of all time, Matthew Hoppe.
The best Bundesliga striker of that one game that he was really good in.
For 4 minutes. Yeah. Which, by the way, Amin Harit was better than him in. Everyone forgets that. Okay.
Right, yeah.
And then
Amin Harit had
the game of his
assists.
life.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Matthew Hoppe's with us. We've got Jonathan Lewis. And of course, if Jackson Ewell,
first name on the team.
If Jackson Ewell was not enough,
we can't miss this dude.
If you thought things were getting better, you thought wrong, Giassi.
You
Zardes.
thought wrong.
Wow, Ty, how far the mighty hath fallen. What were your first impressions on seeing this roster?
In the post-Nations League show, we started talking about our hopes for the Gold Cup. And my one and only hope that I kept harping on was that the U.S. does not do what was rumored and does not bring a second-string team to this Gold Cup. Because if you're not familiar with this team and the way that the tournaments work, the Gold Cup is our equivalent of the European Championship. It's our equivalent of the Copa America. It's our regional championship, and it should be the second most important trophy we can win. The Nations League is a thing that was made up very recently as a way to fill in gaps where there used to be friendlies being played. So for me, I really wish that the US had gone harder to win the Gold Cup and brought the A group to the Gold Cup. I'm perfectly happy with the Nations League win, but I didn't know that it would come at the expense of us trying to win the Gold Cup. The stated logic of this is that the players are tired and they want to give them time to recuperate and get ready for a difficult club season, especially with the weird timing of everything from COVID. But for me, if you have the opportunity to prioritize your regional championship, you need to do that. And it's inconceivable that England would have the same logic, or that Germany would have the same logic around trying to rest their players and get them ready for the season, because playing for the national team is a priority. And I feel like when you do this, it sends the message that our national team program is a second priority, and is not something that clubs need to respect or pay too much attention to.
So there's a couple different things there. The first is this tournament, entitled the Gold Cup, is the same tournament as the Copa America and the Euros. So we breezed past that pretty quickly. And the Africa Cup of Nations.
Cup of Nations.
So these are tournaments you've heard about and love. The Euros. And this is our version of that. And we don't take it seriously. We have historically done every other, we send a team, right? And actually, that's been true about other teams in our region as well.
Correct.
Until now. Because now, so I understand, Mexico and Canada are both bringing A squads.
Correct.
So we're electing. This is changing. There is a change happening in the region where people are realizing that this tournament is important and is very difficult to win. Is getting increasingly difficult to win as Canada comes up, and as do all the other sort of smaller nations rise. The low bar in our region is rising quickly, as is the peak. People are taking this seriously. We are not. What happened? How did this? Was there a press conference that we missed?
Well, I think it was the U.S.'s intention, the federation's intention to do this for a long time, but I don't think they knew exactly what the other federations would do. So it's one of those kind of like prisoner's dilemma situations where I think if they knew that all the other teams would have ended up bringing in a squad, they might have tried to do that too. But it looks like Mexico, and I presume Honduras is going to bring their best team to the Olympics. That would make much more sense to me. But I think Mexico is bringing the A team to Gold Cup and the B team to Olympics, which is probably was not expected by our federation. So we kind of zigged, and when everyone else zagged, it was kind of like a weird, dance issue situation. So I think that's kind of what went wrong here. But the thing about it that really bothers me is that the next big thing that's coming up is World Cup qualifying, which is starting in September. So literally, 2 months away.
Yeah.
So we have very little time to actually prepare for that. And we've given up our biggest opportunity to get the team together for a long period of time. And we replaced it with this Nations League camp, which was great, but it was only 2 weeks, whereas this is, 4 or 5 weeks potentially.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a big missed opportunity to get the group ready. And what I suspect, because we've spent so long where there's always been a caveat around the team and the performance, it's been, firstly, after Trinidad, that it's the Dave Sarakan era, and you can't take any of those performances seriously because we're just trying to restart the program, bring in these young kids, and then it's Greg Berhalter, no, he's just getting used to things, and there's different availability, and there's injuries, and yada, 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 and then there's COVID. So it feels like Greg Berhalter has never really been on the hook to win a game. And I think the Federation likes that. I think that the Federation doesn't want to put Berhalter into situations where he's going to be facing that pressure. So the apparatus behind US soccer is perfectly willing to do this kind of thing because it deflects the potential for critique and pressure. So we didn't end up with our best squad for Olympic qualifying, and that means that when we fail, well, we weren't able to get our best squad. And that that's going to happen in this Gold Cup. This team, maybe this team crashes out in the semis, and we didn't have our A squad. So what could we have done about that?
Right, and there was a turning point there where in the first Nations League games versus Canada, we played them twice in a row. And Greg, for that second game, he was certainly under some public scrutiny and pressure around that time. And I wonder if that was, and he squeaked by, he won the second game versus Canada.
Yep.
And I wonder if that was a sort of a turning point for, hypothetically, what you're describing, where the Federation realized we can't have this guy get turned on before qualifying.
Exactly. Because
Because
there's no way for them to, it's just not realistic for them to switch.
yeah.
So
okay.
it leaves us in all these situations where there's always an excuse. And I just fear that it's going to be like the Klinsmann era where we just kind of string it along. And then we find out in those key moments at the beginning and middle of qualifying that this isn't going to work. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think the US will qualify successfully, but it gives me pause that like we seem to avoid pressure spots for some reason.
Okay, so if that's true, that's horrifying, and I hope you're wrong about that. I hope there's
I'm
something
wrong
else
too.
going on.
And I'm
I
fully
hope that
willing to accept like it's complicated. Everything, all
complex.
these decisions right now are very complicated because of COVID. So granted.
I hope that what's happening is that there is merit behind the concept that players need one, rest, which is true. And COVID was basically a year and a half. It resulted in a year and a half long season. And to go for another 4 or 5 weeks training, playing in an intense situation, and then trying to start a season, that does sound difficult. I see that. So especially for someone like Tyler Adams, who we just need the guy to be healthy, totally get it. Great. Keep him on ice. Is there something legitimate to be said for players establishing themselves at their club? And I'm going to ask this I want to give Greg a real chance here and really actually take a step back and not just reflexively answer, fuck that, like we need the team together. Let's take a second here. Let's think about teams that are really great, and how do they get great? Did France become great based on what they did in their camps or based on the way they developed their player pool? And if it's based on the way they develop their player pool, is the best way to develop a player pool giving all the players their best possible shape for their club career? So like, is there something to be said for prioritizing the club career unless it's the World Cup?
I think there is, but there mostly is when it comes to second-rate federations. So when you're a small potatoes program, yes, you want to genuflect to the clubs because you want the clubs to treat you well when you really need your players. But England doesn't care about that. Germany doesn't care about that. The priority is winning games for the national team. So to me, I think this should be a turning point where we should stop being so sort of deferential to the clubs and look at ourselves as a big deal program. And I think we have to be the ones who start doing that. I don't think the clubs are going to start respecting us unless we act that way.
Well, and I wonder if there's, in the past, right, it's been really, in Greg's day, he probably would have needed to be there all summer to get a starting
to not lose his spot, yeah. And there used to be this very substantial, I'm sure there still is to an extent, substantial anti-American bias because of just sort of, what's the term, stereotyping. Like when you think, what's a good soccer player, if you're European, you don't think of Americans. That makes a lot of sense. But that's what's changing. That's what's changing as a result of the success of the guys who have gone over and done well. So to me, I think I see that going away. I see it where our players are automatically getting a lot more credit and a lot more flexibility. And guys like Matthew Hoppe, for instance, he wasn't like lighting it up for the second team. He wasn't breaking records or anything, but he still got a chance with the first team. He still got consistent minutes. He still got cultivated as a professional. So for me, that is no longer sort of acting against us. And so we don't quite need to lean into that as much as we used to. And I think the way that Mexico would look at this is, look, if the player comes in here, they do incredibly well with Mexico and they're starring in a Gold Cup win, of course the coach is going to play them because they just were successful with the Mexican national team, which is a big deal program.
Yeah.
And so that's to their credit just as much as some good performances in friendlies for the club team.
Right.
So to me, it's a small potatoes mindset of thinking, oh, well, the Europeans will never trust us unless they see it for themselves. And what we have to start doing is saying, like, no, actually, our performances are a big deal. Our highlights are seen around the world. We're perceived as a top side in our region. And if our players show it for us, that is to their credit when it comes to their professional careers.
Okay. So I think that if I'm Greg, my response is you're 100% right. We're just not there yet.
Yeah.
So we
yeah.
need not this cycle. After next cycle, yes. This cycle, no.
I think it's very much a transitional period, so it makes sense. There's going to be some people who have an older mentality, and it would make a lot of sense that people of that era, like your Brian McBrides, your Greg Berhalters, who played for this program and have probably been the player in that tug of war situation, that they will have this mentality because it's what they came up with. So, but I think one lesson that we learned from the Bruce Arena era is that waiting too long to make a change can be just as bad as making a change too soon.
Whew.
In the qualifying for the last World Cup, Jermaine Jones played minutes, Tyler Adams did not.
Yeah.
And there's no way that was the correct decision, because a 20-year-old Tyler Adams would have contributed much more than a 35-year-old Jermaine Jones. Just facts. But the fact that Jermaine Jones had done it before won out. And so to me, there's a lot of cautionary tales like this where you see teams that are great and then they go into a cycle where they're just not that good anymore. They've just lost it. And the same thing can kind of happen with these cultural trends as well. It's like, now's the time to strike. I think the brand of U.S. soccer has never been hotter, with Pulisic doing well and with the guys doing well in Italy and Germany. I think we're right there, and we need to start acting like it. So but I get the argument, and I don't think it's terrible, but I do fear that we're going to get into these camps in World Cup qualifying, and the excuse is going to be, we haven't been able to have the group together. That's why we're not performing, and it's all these like self-fulfilling reasons why we can't achieve our potential, the way that Greg Berhalter used to say, well, I have to keep calling in Nick Lima because he's been here for a year.
Right. And by the way, Yunus Musa is still not cap-tied, and Italy is flying through the Euros right now.
Jesus Christ, you're right.
So that's a whole situation too. So we have problems with this. Suffice it to say, this is the worst moment for me in U.S. soccer since before Dest, came to our side.
It's hard to get it up for this.
This is
to
tough.
be honest, but
this is tough.
You should totally
watch. I guess the Olympic. So you should totally watch. But the Olympic failure was sad, and this is sad. So I'm sad about both of those. But let's look on the bright side, because why should people totally watch?
Yeah.
Why should people totally watch this tournament? What we're looking at here is on the 11th we play a team undetermined. There's currently sort of a playoff happening,
a qualifier,
and then there's like
team.
some sort of a weak team, and then there's two more on the 15th and 17th, I think, somewhere around there. There's two more group stage games.
Yeah.
Right after that versus who now? Do you remember?
Martinique and then Canada.
Okay, Martinique and Canada. So Canada's good. So we're playing two, lower level and one very high level team.
So the U.S. and Canada will be heavily favored to get out of that group.
Why should people tune into those group stage games?
So there's two key things that I'm looking for out of this tournament. One is that the U.S. maintains a system and an identity of play that is recognizably connected to the Nations League team. So I don't want to see the style and methodology of the team change because of the personnel to optimize to this personnel. Because the goal of this camp and this tournament is to ready the backups for our A team. So I don't want to tailor the game plan to getting the most out of this particular group. I want to see this group working within the system that we will need them to operate in if they are with the A group.
Yes.
And I want to see players who can push some of those A group players for their spots, particularly the younger guys. And the second thing is we do have some blue chip, high level prospects for this World Cup in this group.
Yes, we do.
So Daryl Dike to me is the highlight of that, where Daryl Dike has a very legitimate shot to be the number one striker. In fact, the striker pool for this camp might be just as good as the striker pool for the Nations League, which was Sargent and Sibachu, who are both, fine, but not pulling up any.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, Hoppy and Giacchini on a sort of similar high upside.
Yeah, and I think from what I have seen of all these guys, I think Daryl Dike has the most talent.
I think that's true.
Of any of these players. So I feel like it's his spot to claim. I think the team will probably default to Sargent or maybe go for Sibachu, at the moment. But I think if Gerald Dike lights it up during this Gold Cup, he will start in World Cup qualifying.
Yeah.
So the stakes are very high for him. And then we have some of these high level blue chip prospects that have actually gone under the radar because they aren't in Europe and they haven't gone over. So Gianluca Busio, for instance, this has been a kid who he broke into the Sporting Kansas City team maybe 5 years ago
It's
as
so
like a
crazy how
14-year-old.
long he's been around.
So he's been around a
He
long
was-
time and he's been hot, but he's never been sort of quite at that level where he was able to crack the national team, particularly with the really incredible prospects who have been coming up overseas. But now is his time. He's, I think, 20 now. He's been starting game in, game out for Kansas City,
Yep.
doing really well. I think he captains the team.
There's tons of transfer rumors flying around for him.
There's
almost
always
every
been transfer
year.
rumors. Exactly. He's one of those where I feel like if he had gone over 2 years ago, which he could have, he would be in the national team right now. But somehow being in MLS, he's gone under the radar.
Yeah.
Makes sense,
Which makes
you don't have
sense.
the stamp of approval of the European club, but in any case, this is it's a perfect opportunity for him, and I pray to God that we don't see Leggett, Roldan, and Ewell in the middle, and then get like a smattering of Busio minutes at the end of games. Like, dear God, just start the kid and just see how he does.
Yeah.
Like, the whole point is, can we find an upgrade? This is all upside because we have a really strong identity and roster for our top group. So can any of these guys just let's give them a shot to impress us and see if they have a chance to supplant any of those guys. So that's my two things: is I want to see the system maintained because the whole goal of this is to elevate players to the next team, and I want to see the youngest and most promising players get the lion's share of the minutes because we've seen enough Christian Roldan and Jackson Ewell.
Yeah. I would add Matt Turner in the mix there.
Sure.
I would, for the story, and also he's obviously Ethan Horvath and Zach Steffen are 1 and 2. But should one of them, go down for 6 months and we need a third goalkeeper, I'm happy to have that be Matt Turner. I
Sure.
think that would be
Sure.
great. So I want to shout that out as well. And a third shout out for George Bello, George Bello was like the hottest prospect in the universe at left back at a time when we had no left backs. There was no such thing as an American left back. And so people started talking about him at an extremely young age because he was playing up levels, up age groups in the national team, and he was playing left back. And then he tore something. He had some crazy ass like knee situation that it was like a multiple injury knee situation that took him out for like a year.
Yeah, he was
like
out
8
a year.
months.
Yeah, and then came back and he was a little shaky.
And he looked different. It looked
different.
It was tough, but he's had a few years to kind of recover from that. He probably won't be the player he would have been or could have been, but he's a legitimately exciting player in his own right, and should be taken seriously. And I'm psyched to see Sam Vines too. So
yeah, I like Sam Vines quite a bit.
Yeah, there's things worth watching here, and it could be fun or it could be just really horrible to watch.
It all depends on Berhalter's mentality, because if his mentality is I'm going to pick a weak roster and then I'm going to do everything I can to win a trophy with that team, that's ridiculous. Go for the trophy or go for the development, but don't go for development in the roster selection and then try to win the trophy by being pragmatic in the gameplay. So I want to just see the approach match this roster selection, which is the goal is to see who can crack that A team. It's not to win the Gold Cup. And if that's actually going to be maintained, fine with me.
Fair play.
But I'm going to be super pissed if it's Zardes, Ewell, etc.
Yeah.
One other player I want to shout out. He's not really a young player anymore, but feels still like a young player and entered to the Nats is Miles Robinson.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
has been one of the top center backs in MLS for several years.
Yeah.
As a young American, but because of happenstance, COVID, injuries, release issues, has barely played for the national team. He's played just a couple matches for the senior team, and he was going to be an instrumental part of the qualifying group for the Olympics, but was not released by Atlanta United, which really, really hurt that Olympic group. I think he would have changed it quite a bit if he was involved. So this is a top level guy. This is a guy who very much deserves to be a part of a World Cup 23 if he's able to just kind of prove it. He just hasn't had the chance in the U.S. shirt the way that some of the other like middling center backs like Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman have. You know, they've gotten all this time, but because of various reasons, Robinson hasn't. So I feel like he has maybe even more upside than those guys. He has been at a higher level faster than they have. You know, like Long and Zimmerman didn't really get into national team level until their later 20s. You know, so it's promising. It's very promising that the progress that Miles Robinson has made very quickly, and he's just gone under the radar because the general level of the player pool has been better. But he can very much be an important part of the setup.
Yeah, he's a guy who who in stature seems to me would be an amazing fit for a pairing with what's his face, Chris Richards. Chris Richards and Miles Robinson would be an incredible fit.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying this because of the last name, but I think Anthony Robinson and Miles Robinson could also be a really good fit. But maybe I am just saying.
No, I think there's a swag to Miles Robinson's game that I really like.
Swag. There's a sauce to it. It's not. It's an intangible for sure, but it's that same intangible that Dest had in the under-19s. It's a swag, man. And Tim Ream like doesn't have that.
No.
Right. And when you watch when you like run the numbers, Tim Ream's no slouch. I'm not ragging on Tim Ream. I'm just saying there is something to.
I will.
Okay. When you watch a player and they have sauce, that's more than just an aesthetic thing. That's a very real sign that there's something special here.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Miles Robinson has some sauce.
Well, yeah. Part of what the sauce indicates is just that the player that they elevate in a pressure moment, or that they aren't daunted by high stakes.
Yeah.
And you feel like, I mean, I guess, Tim Ream has played in playoff finals, and that's definitely a high stakes situation. So I shouldn't, pick him out as an example. But you have certain players who you can't envision them coming up big in a high pressure moment. And World Cup qualifying is all about high pressure moments.
Yeah.
The second you drop your first game in World Cup qualifying, unless it's like game 8, pressure's on. When you feel that momentum kind of backsliding. And so the group is going to need to be able to react to that very quickly. It's also interesting with the way that World Cup qualifying will work this time around is likely 3 games per window instead of 2 games per window. So a bad window can really fuck us up. So a lot of it has to be about the mentality within the group being super solid and the group being totally ready and prepared to come in and do their best. And we got to stop throwing these away games away. So we'll get more into this when it comes to the
as we go through this, you'll hear all about it.
But all I mean to emphasize is that mentality is real. So real. when we talk about we like this player because of their swag, what we're saying is we like them because they have a tough mentality and they feel inherently superior and like they should win, and that's what we're looking for. We don't want players who are like, well, we're going to do our best and see what happens. We want players who consider it like laughable, the idea that they would lose a game.
Yes. And so I'll add a little bit to the term sauce here. There's a technical aspect to sauce. Sauce is, you have sauce when your technique, your physical technique, so your ability to trap, move, and pass the ball, is when those techniques are strong enough that you can express yourself creatively,
right?
You have sauce,
right?
So you have to be above a certain level to kind of be able to sublimate the technique and just be creative and sort of be yourself.
Sure.
So Paul Arriola is someone who will never be able to stop thinking about his technique. He's not good enough to do that. So he's always gonna, and I love Paul Arriola.
He's not good enough to have sauce.
He's not good enough to have sauce. And not all players need to have sauce. I'm just trying to be clear about what I'm saying. So Luca Busio has sauce for days. I think, and the reason that matters is because the ability to bring out one's personality is a sign of technical strength. So imagine being able to speak a language. Sure. Paul Arriola can speak Spanish, but Gianluca Busio's writing poems in Spanish. And that's how you know he's better at Spanish, right? There's a difference.
Yeah. So why don't we? You want to just do an 11? I'm kind of curious to get like what would be your dream 11?
I would do that, and then maybe we can check in around the world, see what's going on with people who aren't in this roster.
So give me.
Yeah.
What
Let's
you want
do this
here.
thing. So I'm Matt Turner in goal. Happy with that.
I'm happy with that too.
Let's go Bello, Robinson. Oh no, I guess I have to go.
Yeah, because in this roster we kind of have we have two reasonable left back options.
Yeah, I would go Sam Vines. As much as I love George Bello, I think Sam Vines is closer to what we need right now.
Sure, that's fair.
So then in the center, I honestly don't know. I want Miles Robinson, who's the second one,
and then just pick someone out of
pick someone.
Donovan Pines. I mean, he's just a kind of interesting center back prospect. I don't know. He doesn't seem super special to me, but we'll see. I hope we see him. I don't really care about seeing any more Walker Zimmerman. So I would be in favor of just seeing new faces. James Sands.
It's interesting to see Shaq Moore here in defenders too. Was he always a left back or wasn't he a winger?
He's a right back.
He's a right back.
Yeah, and has been for a little while.
Okay.
So yeah, I would love to see Shaq Moore get a little bit more time.
I'm down with that. I would also be okay with Reggie Cannon.
Yeah,
I think Reggie Cannon is a legitimate.
So let's just go for Sands, Robinson, Vines, and Cannon.
Okay, I'm good with that. Yeah. Midfielders. I want Busio at the 6.
Busio first name on the
name on the team sheet at the 6 specifically. Yeah. That's not a given. A lot of people want him to be a 10, an 8, or even some would say a winger.
And none of the other players I care about. So just
So Busio at the 6. Let's see if he can. I'll
go for
do
Leggett.
a little better than you will.
I want Leggett.
Fine with Leggett and Acosta.
Sure, let's do that. Acosta at the 8.
But if there's some, I don't know anything about Eric Williamson. If I'm missing something, get at us on Twitter.
It's just fine.
Yeah.
I don't see the big.
So we'll do Acosta, Leggett, Busio. Beautiful. Up front, Daryl DK, of course. 9. Done.
9.
And then let's go Nips and Lewis.
Yeah, Nips and Lewis works. I'm also kind of interested in whether Hoppy would work well as a support striker playing more out wide.
I don't think he would.
You think he's too poachery?
I do.
Yeah. So that would be a competition then with him and DK. I could see him and DK working really well together though.
Yeah, but that's a change of system.
Yeah, that's true.
They
are not for. Yeah.
They could. I could see that too. Matt, a big 6, light 6, big 9, light 9. What's the number for the second striker?
Oh my God,
is it 11 or I don't know? But that would be a beautiful friendship pairing. Yeah. Oh God,
Matthew Hoppy has sauce.
Matthew Hoppy has some sauce.
He's a baller kid.
He has some sauce. I'm verdict's out on Matthew Hoppy. We'll see what the deal is with him.
One thing that I just like is like he's very boisterous on social. And he's very overt about like, I'm going to play in the World Cup.
Oh yeah.
So I like that in a kid.
Yeah.
At one point it was the kid Mukwele Akale. Do you remember him? He played for Villarreal as a youth team player. His Twitter bio said, "My goal is to make soccer the biggest sport in the United States."
Oh.
Which I mean,
mine too.
I appreciate. Yeah, mine too, Mukwele.
Same dog.
Yeah, get in here. So unfortunately, not working out so well for him. Talent wise, but maybe he'll achieve that in other ways. Maybe he can come on here.
Yeah, we're looking for a host for the WNT show.
Yeah. I thought you were replacing me.
No, I'm replacing myself. I'm not cutting it in there. That's actually true, folks. If you know someone, a female voice preferably or trans voice, who loves the women's national team, I should start saying this in housekeeping, who loves the women's national team, who is comfortable being recorded, comfortable on camera, comfortable on mic, and is somewhat funny, we want you. There is not a lot of money involved. You can let people know.
Millions of
Jurgen bucks.
Yeah.
But we are looking for someone who's down to get this sister pod going. So let us know if you know anyone. Okay, so that's our 11. Is there anything else you want to say about the teams we're going to play in the group stage or kind of like stuff like that? Because I kind of want to set this to the side and think about other things.
Yeah, so why don't I just run through like the way the Gold Cup usually works.
Yeah.
So It's our regional championship, as we said, but because we are a second-rate federation that acts like a second-rate federation, there is no competition necessarily to host the Gold Cup. So it's almost always hosted in the U.S. because the U.S. has the infrastructure and the U.S. has fans, has immigrants from virtually every nation on earth, and so it's a great place to host this tournament because the different communities of immigrants will go to the matches. Mm-hmm. So if you host it in Honduras or something, there's not a lot of Canadians in Honduras.
Sure.
So so that's why the U.S. is kind of traditionally where it's located. It's been in Mexico once or twice as well, but basically defaults to being here. And that's bullshit because that means that all of our performances are tainted by the fact that it's at home, which makes it easier, which means that when we go on the road in qualifying, there's this excuse that we haven't had enough experience on the road. So, it's a lot of like orange slices kind of situation.
Yeah. Are you guys seeing the patterns here?
Yeah. So, but the Gold Cup is typically 12 teams, and they usually do like some mathematical thing to figure out who gets into I think it's even been 8 teams in the past, or 10. So they've kind of worked it out situation by situation. But now it's at 16, and the 16 means that there's a number of like weaker qualifiers, and it also means that there are invited teams potentially. And so this time we have an invited team in Qatar, which is super interesting. So you have a bunch of, Caribbean nations and Central American nations and us and Canada. And then you have Qatar, which makes absolutely zero sense. But the deal with them is that they are hosting, obviously, the next World Cup, which means that they don't have to qualify for that World Cup. So they don't have domestic competitive matches to play within Asia. So instead, they've played Copa America. I don't know what other, they've sort of supplemented their schedule with being guests in other international tournaments. So this is part of their World Cup preparation. And they're actually pretty damn good. They won the Asia Cup in 2019 and beating, your traditional powers, including Japan in the final. So they're a legitimate World Cup team, and I would expect them to do well in the Gold Cup.
It's interesting, right? When you mentioned that, I was like, wow, that's a serious curveball to invite a good team that could go pretty far.
Exactly.
In this, exactly. Could you imagine if Qatar won the Gold Cup?
If they took it down, yeah. Usually the invited teams kind of lay down if they make it far. Like Mexico has made it to Copa America finals and stuff, and kind of didn't go super hard to win it.
What?
So it's kind of like bad form.
What?
I'm not.
Fuck out of here with that. That's bullshit. Don't invite me to a tournament.
I think it's probably
and
also
then expect me to lay down in the final.
It's probably also there's a lot of like influences in the way of Mexico winning the Copa America. But anyway, yeah. So these invited teams, they're not really supposed to win.
People probably did pretty well on that.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. They're not really supposed to win, but I would love it if the U.S. played Qatar in a semi or something.
That'd be great.
That'd be incredible.
A team we've never seen.
Yeah, exactly. No impression of, and no history, and hopefully like very little excuses. So it's your average tournament format. You've got 16 teams going down to a quarterfinal stage, and then a semifinal and a final, and it's going to run over the course of about a month or a little less than a month. So it'll go from the early July right now. It'll go until August 1st, I believe, is the final. And this is where maybe these excuses find some legitimacy to me, because August 1st is really close to the start of the European season.
Yeah.
Like most of the Premier League teams will start by like August 10th, So if you're potentially going to go to a final in the Gold Cup, you are going to be arriving pretty late, and you might miss your first couple of club games. And I'm sure the reasoning for that is it's probably some CONCACAF bullshit with money and broadcast rights and trying to avoid the other tournaments that are on and things like that. And I don't think the Federation has very much control over that at all, so I can't fault them for that. But I really wish it had turned out differently, where we were able to have, just like a pure competition where everyone brings their best fucking players. Like what happened?
It's not that
How did this happen?
It's not that complicated.
Yeah. I don't want it to be this complicated.
How did we get to a point? How did we get to a point in world football? Okay, I'm going to say football, because that's what we're talking about. Futebol. In which we have players who are playing too many games in a year, the modern tragedy of of football is that Messi has never will never win a World Cup because he plays too many games. Okay, that's a different conversation. Don't at me, bro. But what I'm saying is these world footballers, they play in too many games. And yet we have games that we are scheduling in addition and then not inviting them to.
Yeah, there's so many games.
Is there just too much? It's a content thing. They're just trying to crank out that content.
They're trying to crank out that content. And the US, it's interesting because like in other countries, I think there would be a lot more pressure on the federation to bring in a Pulisic to make the TV ratings work, because the giant media partners would be really pissed if the stars weren't involved, right? But there's this sort of like cozy kind of orange slices vibe with the broadcasters, that
totally
there's not that same amount of public pressure,
Totally.
The fact that they're even playing the Copa America is purely due to TV money. There's no practical reason why they would be doing this. Where these countries are at like 2% vaccinated, COVID is spreading like wildfire, and they're playing this giant international tournament. It makes zero sense. It's purely for money.
It's for money.
Yeah.
Speaking of the cozy thing, I just had this just flashed into my mind. Bruce Arena did an interview either with the Extra Time podcast or the Football with Grant Wall. I can't remember which, so check them both out. They're both great podcasts.
Who's that again?
Really recently, Bruce Arena, the man, you know him, you love him, who was the head of the national team when we failed to qualify. Okay. That man
Dear God.
Expressed publicly how glad he is that in Boston, New England Revolution, no one cares about soccer, because otherwise he would be under the gun every day. This is an interview from like 3 weeks ago. Bruce Arena said, "I'm so glad that no one cares about soccer in Boston." Can you believe that shit?
That's disgusting.
That's what you're talking about. It's real. It's real.
Yeah.
The people at the very top are like, "I'm really glad we don't have more pressure," which is fucking ridiculous. You're in a career that's about winning. What are you doing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Bruce Arena, let me be the first to tell you, I don't know what the fuck is going on in Boston, but we care about soccer here, and you fucked up, dog. Okay?
Yeah.
If you didn't realize that, you fucked up, dog. That was messed up. I'm glad it's going well for you with the Revs.
Damn.
Jesus,
that's
man.
pathetic.
Jesus.
And I mean, there is this. Do you think that there is a difference in the perception of the generations? Like, do you think that these MLS players feel that way? Like, is George Bello glad that there isn't more?
Absolutely not.
In Atlanta.
Absolutely not.
Performances. From
everything I've heard from the interviews of that generation of players, they all want more pressure.
Like, give it to me. Yeah.
They want more pressure.
Yeah.
They want more games.
Yeah.
And I would even argue that someone like Jesse Marsh would never say something like that. He says things like, "I'm really glad that I'm being challenged. Right. I know German now.
Right.
I'm a better human being because of this.
Right.
I want to be in the toughest league possible."
Right.
That's the kind of thing Jesse Marsh says. So it's not everyone who, but what you're talking about, this is not a perceived, like when we watch the Gold Cup or with those Olympic qualifiers that we crashed out of, and we get this sensation, like, I feel like they weren't trying, or they didn't care that much. That's not just a feeling. There's a reality behind that of some kind that is complex and important to understand, but it's real. Okay.
I agree. Well, I think there's a generational shift occurring, and it makes sense that there would be differing mentalities. It reminds me a lot of like cronyist politics, where there's a status quo that the establishment is satisfied with, and they know that it's not ideal, and that's okay because they're comfortable with their little slice of whatever unideal solution they have access to. So I think for Bruce Arena, it's like perfectly fine that for him to be like the big fish in a small pond, for him to be the top dog US American coach, and for him to for his teams to be a plucky underdog where it's a great success if we make the quarterfinals.
Yeah.
So I think for his like worldview, it's challenging that the US might be in a place where we have to be more successful than that, and there's public pressure on that.
Right. Yeah. He's of a different era.
But that's what we're trying to bring about. And
that's
I think I agree with you. I think certainly with the guys who are in Europe, like Pulisic going to Chelsea, that's a fishbowl. That's tough. and not that Chelsea is like the worst of those situations, but like Dest at Barcelona, that is tough. You're going to get shit on in the street if you don't perform. If you play for Barcelona and you let the side down, you're letting a giant city that really, really cares about their soccer down. So I think that's the current generation seems much, much more willing to embrace those kind of pressure spots, which is exactly what you need to do to get to the top level. No pressure, no diamonds.
No pressure, no diamonds, dog. Anything else here on the Gold Cup, or really anything else in the world? I think we're pretty close to having wrapped this conversation, but what's going on?
Going into this conversation, I got to tell you, as I said, it's hard to get it out for this situation, but I feel like I'm kind of, there's
we're warming up to it. I'm feeling like, what happens though, but
I'll be
hyped. Absolutely. If I can see some Busio, it's a great summer. It happens every time, right? We have lived many. We just recently experienced a very historically rare moment in which it was like fun and exciting to watch a good US team. Okay, but this roster that we're looking at, that's what we're used to, and we know how this works. We complain about it for 2-3 weeks. We stress about it. We get mad about it, and then they suit up, and that anthem comes on.
Fucking suit up.
And I am cheering for Jackson Ewell as hard as I possibly can.
Yeah,
it happens every time. Mm-hmm. I get hype every time, and I know you guys will too.
Yep. Yeah. So I'm much more in than when we started this episode.
Great.
So I hope that's coming across to the listening public. But I'm like you said, anytime I watch the Nats, something just happens to my body.
It's wild.
It's
wild.
It moves me like a Southern Baptist getting the spirit.
So let's do like a weird version of hopes. Maybe this will be a new segment. It's hypothetical storylines, something along those lines. Like let's each do one. So and I'll provide an example. So one hypothetical storyline that would be awesome from the Gold Cup is if Matthew Hoppe comes in here and totally and is totally, not because DK plays poorly, DK plays to his level, and Matthew Hoppe is golden boot.
Even better.
He just crushes.
Yeah.
And then you realize that this is the guy.
Yeah.
That's a hypothetical storyline that would be really exciting. What's one that you think could be cool? Could happen and would be awesome.
I would love to see Captain Gianluca Busio at some point. I would like to see him express a sort of what's the term, like a non-obvious level of leadership over a group of older players.
Oof, that's beautiful. I love it. I fucking love that, dude. All right, let's see. I saw Christian Pulisic in the stands with some square sunglasses and a date at the Miami Derby.
Oh, nice.
Totally awesome.
Pulisic also was, I guess, in Florida, and he was filmed on a fishing boat. Sitting on the side of the fishing boat above like a giant marlin, juggling a ball, and then he fell in.
Wow, beautiful!
50 million pounds worth of footballer fell into the ocean and had to be retrieved.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's beautiful. Dest's Instagram is off the fucking chain. he's got videos of him drifting in a spider and shit like that. It's insanity.
Yunus Musa had a vacation in New York City and posted some good gram.
Oh, hell yeah.
Some good gramming.
Okay. All right.
I think I must have missed the call or something. It's weird.
It's weird. It's weird. He must have, there's probably an explanation.
It's weird. He told me he would be here like in August, but he came in July.
And it's weird too because I saw him with Tim Weah, and I'm always hanging out with Tim Weah. I don't know why Tim didn't mention that.
Right. That's weird.
None of this is true. We're joking. Do you have any idea what Tim Weah is doing for his vacation?
It's like, I was hanging out with Tim and I heard Tim's phone buzz, and it was Eunice. And Eunice wanted to hang out, but he didn't text both of us, It was really weird.
Eunice, his name sounds just like Eunice, which is an international school in New York City.
Which he very well could have
Which
gone
is perfect. It's just beautiful.
The man with 10 nationalities. He's so New York, by the way.
He's incredibly New York.
Future Red Bulls captain.
He's totally... Yeah, he's a very New York guy. We were talking about this. What's the New York style of soccer? If you guys know, tell us that. I think Tim Weah is the closest I see to embodying what New York soccer is like, but I'm not really sure. I really like rentals. I think the concept
God.
rentals.
I love
So-
renting things.
Renting things. Wow, what a great option.
All the pleasure without the burden.
Yeah, no burden, so much cheaper.
Yeah.
So you can try things like
Sure.
spiders.
Spiders, absolutely.
You could do that.
You could even rent like the animal spider.
You could rent a spider.
Yeah. You could put it in the passenger seat of the spider.
Yeah, I like layaway payment plans as well. These are another thing that I like.
You
So
basically
other
like
ways-
financial illiteracy. That's what you're advocating for.
And I love compound interest, but I don't love any of that
when
shit.
it's working against me. Yeah.
I love it in concept, but I am losing this game. But I don't love any of that stuff as much as I love the Nats. Let's go,
It's real
boys.
Nats. Get out
Tournament
there.
time. Get out there.
Gloves
do the
and
thing.
all.
Do the thing. Go play soccer.
Copa Oro. We got a couple. We're done with the podcast recording. That was the end of the podcast recording.
Yeah.
I don't know if you all are still here. If you have us in another tab or something. But H. Huss asked, "Can the current U.S. team challenge the likes of England and France?" Your take.
They can challenge the likes of England and France. Yes.
At a neutral site. So we're playing in Beijing. We're playing England. How many times out of 10 does the U.S. win? versus England?
One or two.
One or two.
Yeah.
And then maybe like one or two draws.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Same for France.
So it's
yeah.
7 England wins.
7 England wins. Yeah. That makes
And
sense.
one
Yeah.
and a couple of those England wins, total blowouts.
A
A disaster.
Real bad.
Really
Real
bad.
bad. Yeah. I get that. So yeah, we're in
A career-changing situation for some people.
I would say so. For people who are watching the Euros right now,
Yeah.
I would say
totally.
the U.S. is very close to the level of Denmark. Very similar. We have players playing at similar clubs. I think we have more talent in the pool, but the age is, so like Thomas Delaney is less talented than Gio Reyna, but Thomas Delaney has a similar level of effect on the game right now
Mhm.
as Gio Reyna does, just to pick an easy comparison between the two. So I would say whatever you're seeing Denmark do in the Euros, that's kind of where we would be at, roughly.
I think that's pretty far from where we're at today. I think that
You think we're not there yet?
I don't
Okay.
think we're there yet. I think we're closer to like a Wales.
Wow. I think you're underestimating the skill of this team
Today?
today. Yeah, today.
Okay.
Just given the amount of those players who play alongside our players.
But
at club level.
but it's not just a player
like
conversation. It's not who has the best players because the team.
that's
It
true.
matters
That's
that
true. It
Denmark has been
matters.
playing a certain way for
Sure.
generations.
That's true. That's true.
And we don't have that. We have no winning pedigree at all.
That's true. That's true.
And we have very little experience playing those teams in Europe.
Substantially worse coaching. Most of the time.
Substantially worse coaching. A lot of so anyways. But to your point, could
Yeah.
we challenge England or
Totally.
France?
Yes,
It's
we
interesting.
can. Absolutely.
But
Yeah.
You're aware that France is those two teams are at different levels, right? Those are not.
Well, what do you? Who are you saying is on top? You're
Yeah, I
saying-
guess that's
yeah.
I guess maybe it's not as close as I thought it was.
I think-
Euros
I
or
think
it's not
it's-
as different.
I
I
think
would
it's
have
close,
I would have
yeah.
put France far ahead of
Me
England
too,
before this
tournament.
Euros.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's not.
And then Karume asked how far this U.S. team can go in the Gold Cup. What's your
I somehow forgot to ask this during the pod. Thank you.
Swami?
I don't think it's gonna go well. I think we'll probably go out in the semifinals.
Yeah,
to someone
that's
good.
what I would expect as well.
I think we'll lose to Canada in the group stage, get through, and then lose to someone good in the semifinal.
All right. I think that's a reasonable definition of par. So
Yeah.
if the U.S. makes the final, that would be above par to me. And if we win the tournament, I would be shocked. If
I'd
this
be
team
shocked.
is able to beat
I would be
18 Mexico.
floored.
Yeah.
I would be floored, and
Yeah.
that would be that's a wonderful story.
The difference between our A team and England's A team is similar to the distance between this team and Mexico's A team. Like it's kind of the 1 out of 10 level where this squad could nick a win off of an A team Mexico, but it would have to get really lucky.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Bruce Arena talks too much. Very true. And didn't make the 2018 World Cup because of this bullshit mentality. And yes, more pressure. pushes you to get better. So thank you all for joining us on YouTube. This was a special hi YouTube post record period.
Yeah,
this will live on the internet forever. And we're
this shirt,
glad
by the
that
way,
we
for
did.
you guys on YouTube, USA versus everybody, is a shirt that I love that Kevbot got me, and I love it. However, outside of the context of either doing this podcast or being at a US soccer game, this shirt is a mistake. You should not say US versus everybody in any situation other than a US soccer tournament.
Don't wear that on your vacation to Vietnam.
Yes, for instance, because of the unfortunate realities of US actually being versus everyone.
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm happy to have been able to wear this shirt with you guys in a way that's
not a good
and fun.
Not a good fit in Kabul.
Don't do that. All right, cool.
All right, people. Thank you. We'll see you later.